Please note that the views expressed on this program are those of the individuals who speak them, and not necessarily those of Portsmouth Community Radio, its Board of Trustees, members, volunteers, or underwriters. Good evening and welcome to Spirit Radio. I am your host, Willy Hassell. Along with my co-host, Lynn Nickerson, we will take you on a journey into the unknown where the paranormal becomes the normal. A journey to a world cloaked in darkness where reality becomes a thin veil. So sit back, relax, and join us as we venture into the shadows, the darkness, the unknown, and back. Okay, well, why don't we start the show all over again? This is Spirit Radio, the paranormal experience, and this is not a test. This is for real this time. We've run into a little problem. Our guest for tonight
has been delayed.
He's been delayed.
And maybe permanently, who knows?
Yeah, we don't know if at this point, if he's going to make it or not. So, anyways, this, like I said, this is Spirit Radio, the show where the paranormal becomes the normal, and I am your host, Willy Hassell, your guide to the realm of the unknown and the unseen.
And the dark side.
And the dark side.
And we're it tonight.
Yeah, we are it tonight. We are fumbling, if you can't tell. So, Lynn. What would you like to talk about?
Well, I think you should strap your seatbelt because it's going to be a bumpy ride.
Oh, it's already been a bumpy ride. It was a bumpy ride just getting here tonight.
Well, tonight we were expecting Jeremy D'Entremont. And he's the president of the New England Lighthouse Association. And what he does is he tries to raise funds for the renovation of the different lighthouses along the New England coast. And in doing that, he's come across many ghost stories of the lighthouses. And some of them we do have some information on that we could talk about tonight. And Jeremy also has some tours that he offers in the fall in particular, throughout the summer sometimes too. And one of them, which is most famous and well received, is the tour of the Portsmouth Harbor. And there's Portsmouth Harbor and the environs, and there are a lot of haunted places along there. He also offers a tour of the of Fort Constitution, which is actually in Portsmouth Harbor again, and sometimes too, Ron Kolick will offer a tour and a ghost investigation, and there are a lot of things happening there.
Yes, actually, Jeremy also runs Extracts Paranormal Journeys along with
Ron,
along with Ron Kolick. So
Yep.
they do the Portsmouth lighthouses together.
Yep, they do, and there are several things that happen over there in that territory, and they're always getting either EVPs or clouds or, mist and whatnot, strange mists that show up on the film.
Yeah, there have been a lot of things that have happened over at the Portsmouth Fort Constitution Lighthouse.
And one of the keepers, his name was Joshua Card, and he's been cited on several occasions independently of people who had no idea who he was.
Yeah, even this is still on an active Coast Guard base, and even some of the Coast Guard people have seen shadows walking. Well, not shadows, but actual figures. Walking,
that's right.
Walking along the walls, and when there was actually nobody there.
Some of the other occurrences have been, there's a helipad there, and now while the Coast Guards were on duty, one snowy winter evening, they looked out and there were footprints going out to the center of the helipad from one direction that appeared to be a child's, and then from the other direction were footprints of an adult. And they stopped at the center of the helipad, and there were no retracing footsteps, which is kind of odd. How would you replicate that?
I'm not quite sure how you would replicate that. But
no, so it makes you wonder. So they were puzzled over that.
I don't blame them. I would be too. I would be too. And I have seen videos on the internet of the lighthouse where the main door of the house closed by itself.
Oh, that I haven't seen.
Yeah, it's not EctoWeb. I forget the name of the group that did it, but
another investigative group.
Yes, no, a paranormal investigation group, and they did get a very good video of the door closing on its own.
Jeremy also tells a tale of he was up there. Well, actually, it was a painter. There was a painter that was up there, and he heard a voice behind him, and someone said to him, "What are you doing?" The painter stopped painting, and he left, and he refused to go back. And it's generally thought that it was Joshua Card speaking to him. And Jeremy was also spoken to. I believe he heard a hi up there at the top of the lighthouse.
Yeah, that's right. I remember him saying that. He was up in it was right up in the top, I guess, in the light.
He was up at the top by the light.
All by himself, and there was nobody else in the lighthouse at the time. And somebody said hi to him.
Yep, and they got, I went on one investigation, and they did get EVPs, and that was one time that Ron was there. But every single time they offer a tour, they always catch some kind of unexplainable evidence.
Well,
it's a cool place to go.
It is.
It's right here in our backyard.
It's right here in our backyard. And I was just looking at the, I guess it was the Friends of Portsmouth Lighthouses website this afternoon. And right now, every Sunday, the lighthouse is open to the public.
Oh, really?
It's every Sunday. I don't remember what the hours were, but I just saw it today.
I'm sure they could check out in Spotlight what the hours are. There's always a listing in Portsmouth's social music directory.
Or look under the Friends of Portsmouth Harbor Lighthouses.
Yeah, over the internet, you can find some information there.
Or Extracts Paranormal Journeys, one or the other.
That's right. Also, right now we have an underwriting notice to read. Programming on Portsmouth Community Radio is made possible by you, our members, and by the Music Hall, an American treasure for the arts. It's the Seacoast Performing Arts Center that entertains 100,000 patrons annually on Chestnut Street in Portsmouth. Schedule and other information at the Portsmouth Music Hall. So,
all right.
I don't hear Jeremy knocking on the door, do you?
I do not. I just ran out in the parking lot real quick looking for him, and no, he was not there. And we're sure something must have happened, because this would be Jeremy's third appearance, and he is very
punctual, and yeah, he really looks forward to this.
Dependable. That's
yes,
the word
he is dependable.
I was looking for, yeah. So something must have come up in Jeremy's world, and
he probably just didn't use caffeine in his coffee today.
Maybe that's it. Maybe he was down at the lighthouse and got abducted by a ghost or something.
Well, let me see. When Jeremy was here last time, there were a couple of lighthouses that he spoke about. And I was going to ask him to repeat a couple of the stories because they were fascinating. So one of the stories took place on Boone Island, which is just off the coast of Maine, 9 miles off the coast. And what it is a granite tower. And in 1710, there had been many shipwrecks there, but in 1710, there was one in particular. It was a British vessel, the Nottingham Gallery, and it was it crashed on the rocks there. There's a very rocky ledge, and there's really no way of landing on it. But anyway, the seas were very high. It was in the winter, and there were a total of, I believe it was 17 crew members. And they were all stranded on the rock in the middle of the winter. And this is one case where they had to resort to cannibalism to try and stay alive. And it was just a horrible thing that they had to go through. I believe a few of them were rescued. Going up the coast a little bit, in 1807, there's a place called Cape Elizabeth where there is a lighthouse there. It's Portland Head Light. And that is just south of Portland. And in 1807, there was a wreck of the Charles, and they had 22 people on board, and 16 of them unfortunately died. There was a terrible storm, so 6 survived. And one of the victims was a 24-year-old woman by the name of Lydia Carver. And she had gone to Boston on this schooner to buy her wedding dress. So this schooner would go between Boston and Portland and do regular routes. Well, she had gone there to buy her wedding dress, and she was one of the victims that died. And she was found on the beach, washed up on the beach, next to the trunk that held her wedding dress. Really very sad.
I
And
would say so.
she's been spotted walking Crescent Beach dressed in white, 24 years old.
Dressed in her wedding gown, huh?
Evidently, she's dressed in her wedding gown. And she is buried in one of the cemeteries up there. Very sad tale.
Well, I was just going to say there are a lot of sad tales when you start talking about ghosts and spirits and,
There are many, many shipwrecks off of these lighthouses that they're not very well recorded, and all these people died under really, stressful conditions.
Yeah, and stressful conditions are gonna cause hauntings and strange strange things being seen.
And then in 1813, this is a little bit closer to home now. This would be off of the coast of New Hampshire. Actually, New Hampshire and Maine both own parts of the Isles of Shoals. This happened to be Smutty Nose, which it does belong to Maine. And there was a wreck of a ship, and it's gone down in history that it's been the Sagunto, but there is a question as to whether or not the ship's name was Sagunto or Concepcion. The tale is, though, that the ship came from Cadiz, Spain. Actually, it's Cadiz, Spain. But there's question as to whether or not it was a Portuguese ship or Spanish ship and what the name of it was. But evidently it looks like that they were both Portuguese and Spanish aboard. This comes from a book that is actually written by Edward Rowe Snow, and Jeremy edited it, added pictures. So this is one of the things that Jeremy talks about when he comes in here, and there is the note in the book that talks about Edward Rowe Snow had made a trip to North Africa, and there was a Spanish woman there that he met who mentions that in 1813 she had lost a relative. So evidently there's the indication that it was a Spanish ship. But there are many reports of hauntings, and the story is that it happened in the winter, and it was ice cold, and the crew members managed to crawl up from the ship, and they were freezing as they were crawling to get to one particular house that had a light on. So when these people woke up in the morning, they saw all of these frozen dead bodies crawling toward the house. It's just a frightful thing.
Frozen dead bodies.
Frozen
can
dead
you
bodies.
imagine waking up in the morning and looking out and seeing frozen dead bodies crawling up to your
Yeah, they
house?
were found in crawling, creeping positions. Can you imagine? They just didn't quite make it.
Didn't
So
quite make it, yeah. That's
there
for sure.
are a lot of reported hauntings on Smutty Nose that look like people crawling up on the beach, I guess. Very sad situation. And did you have something to add, Willie? No?
No.
Oh, okay.
I was waiting for you.
And then that was 1813. Now there were many shipwrecks too out at the Isles of Shoals, but that was one of them that was a bit more famous. Then in 1849, this is around Bath, Maine. There's a Pond Island lighthouse located there, and this is located at the end of the Kennebec River. So there was a terrible winter storm again, and again it was another ship, that was returning to Bath, Maine from Cadiz, Spain. And it the winds came up, it was winter, and it flipped the boat over, the ship over, and it lay on its side for a while, and then all of the crew members were hanging onto the keel of the ship, and then more waves came, and it just splintered the boat into pieces. I should say the ship into pieces.
The ship, yeah.
Yep. And the bodies just kept washing up on shore, and no one survived. So there are there's sightings of people walking the shore, and they're all buried around as in a cemetery in Bath, Maine.
You want to take a little early break here and reconnoiter a little bit?
All right.
Does that sound like a plan to you?
We'll join you again in just a couple of minutes.
He's got a roadmap of Jupiter, radar fix on the stars, all along the highway. She's got a liquid crystal compass, a picture book of the rivers under the Sahara. They travel in the time of the prophets, on the desert highway, straight to the heart of the sun. Like lovers and heroes, I'm the restless part of everyone. We're only at home and we're on the run. On the run. He's got a star map of Hollywood, a list of cheap motels all along the freeway. She's got a sister out in Vegas, promise of a decent job, far away from her hometown. They travel on the road to redemption, a highway out of yesterday that tomorrow will bring. Like lovers and heroes, birds in the last days of spring. We're only at home when we're on the wing. On the wing. We are young.
Okay, we're back. You are listening to Spirit Radio, the Paranormal Experience on WSCA 106.1 FM in Portsmouth West End, and from the community calendar, the Seacoast Repertory Theater. The Seacoast Repertory Theater is dedicated to the presentation of professional theater productions and to the education of the region's young people. Ushers are needed for the main stage and youth productions on evenings and weekends. Volunteers will work with a variety of people, backgrounds, and ages. For further information, contact Judy Curry, Marketing Director, at 603-433-4793, or at Judy, that's Judi, at seacoastrep.org. And Lynn, you have some upcoming guests?
Yes, our upcoming guest list starts with August 30th. And on August 30th, joining us in the studio is going to be a paranormal investigator, Shane Soroyce. And would you like to tell us about Shane, Willie?
Yes, Shane is going to be sponsoring the True Paranormal Event 2014, a celebration of advanced understanding in the paranormal field. And that is going to be on September 20th from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. at the Brookline Event Center in Brookline, New Hampshire. And a couple of the speakers who are going to be there will be Paul and Ben Eno and William Hall. And also Spirit Radio is going to be there. We are going to have a table at this event. So please come on over and say hello.
It should be very, very interesting.
More interesting than tonight?
Oh, couldn't happen.
Okay.
All right, then on September 6th, Roxy Zwicker, who is a local author of many fascinating books on ghosts and spirit legends in the Seacoast area, will be joining us for her second appearance. And she's always got some great local stories to share. On September 11th, Brad Olson will be joining us once again to discuss some of his latest books. He was with us a couple of months ago to talk about New England Stone Chambers, and this time he's written a series on esoterica, so that should be fascinating. Then let me see, on September 20th we have, Reverend Michael Carter, and he'll be joining us here. Actually, he'll be joining us via Skype. He's the author of Alien Scriptures, Extraterrestrials, and the Holy Bible. A longtime UFO experiencer, he's lectured extensively on topics of religion and UFOs. He's appeared on Sci-Fi Channel. I'll try that again. On Sci-Fi Channel's Steven Spielberg's production of Abduction Diaries, The Real 4400. And he's also a frequent guest on the History Channel's production of Ancient Aliens. And the 27th, we have lined up, again, author William Hall, who's going to be at Shane Soroyce's Paranormal Festival, whatever that's going to be called. And he's going to be discussing his new book, The World's Most Haunted House, which is a true story of the 1974 poltergeist haunting on Lindley Street in Bridgeport, Connecticut.
And I just got the book, and I've been reading it, and it's fascinating.
How is it? Is it fascinating?
Fascinating. It's quite a story.
You know, Paul and Ben Eno had written a portion of that, because they were there, too.
Yeah.
And thoroughly investigated it. And there was such severe poltergeist activity, all kinds of things moving around, including furniture.
Oh, I couldn't believe that these people actually were staying in this house.
I know.
The things that were going on. What it actually took for them to finally say, no, we've had enough, we got to get out.
I don't understand why they didn't evacuate sooner.
I don't know.
It got so that it involved the neighborhood, and the police, the fire department came. The police couldn't figure out what was going on.
No, even the police and the fire department witnessed,
all kinds of strange phenomena.
Furniture flying across the floor and refrigerators levitating.
TVs turning on by themselves, and TVs flying in the living room.
Yeah, this obviously just wasn't one or two nuts that were imagining things. I mean, police, fire department, TV reporters, the whole neighborhood.
The whole neighborhood showed up, and there were several thousand people at one point. And then the town government got involved because they were blocking off roadways and whatnot. So it'll be interesting to get to the bottom of what caused all that. And William Hall
Yep.
did extensive research on it.
He did, yes.
So he's going to
he'll
be our guest on the 27th of September, so
All right.
you'll have to stay tuned for that.
Okay. Did you have more, or was that it?
Well, no, I had a couple more things here.
Oh, I meant more guests, but okay.
Oh, no,
Yeah.
that's about it for guests for now that I've got written in front of me anyway.
Okay.
And since my photographic memory has been turned off.
I will clue you in on the rest of them at some point, since we
Okay.
are actually booked right through November. So,
Oh,
you know, it's
that's
not,
right,
It's
yeah.
not like we have nothing to do except tonight. You know, but what can you do?
well, I had a correction and a retraction to make tonight. Sometimes when you're reading books by various authors, it doesn't come with a pronunciation handbook. And just recently, we had a wonderful author on here about 2 weeks ago. His first name is Stephen, and he wrote Who the Bleep Designed Us. And his second book was Extraterrestrials, They Are Here Now. Well, I had introduced him as Stephen Matherlees, and his name is actually Stephen Matherlees, and it does make a difference, and our apologies go out to Stephen. We just weren't aware of his pronunciation, and we were remiss in not finding that out beforehand. But
Actually,
Stephen, if you'll forgive us.
Actually, I think that was my mistake, not yours.
Well, both of us.
But we'll get it right next time, Stephen.
And then the retraction, we were discussing a couple of authors, and that was a couple of weeks ago too. And we were talking about crop circles, and I thought that the gentleman who was the expert on crop circles was Colin Wilson. Well, Colin Wilson is British, but he specializes in paranormal activity. That's what he's an author of. And Colin Andrews is the person who has researched crop circles. So my apologies to Colin Andrews if he's listening. I doubt that he is, but at least we got this corrected here. He has written books on crop circles, and they're
Well-
very, very good.
Well, of course he's listening. You know, we
Across the big pond.
yeah, we have a worldwide audience.
That's true. It is international. How many? 13 countries is it now?
No, I've confirmed that we have been heard in over 30 countries.
Hey, how about that?
That's a lot of countries.
We be cool.
Oh yeah.
What is it? One hit per country, though, right?
No.
Don't tell
no,
anybody.
It's a big audience. It's actually.
So anyway, our apologies to Colin Andrews as well. I had met Colin Andrews when he was at the UFO conference in 1995 here in Portsmouth, and it was just intriguing, fascinating, because he's an electrical mechanical engineer, so he was investigating all of these things happening with the crop circles. He was taking electronic equipment into the circles and measuring with a Gauss meter and taking pictures, and fascinating. His first book is very telling.
Yeah, speaking of UFO events, we're going to be at the Exeter.
Yes,
UFO
the Exeter UFO
on
conference.
August 30th.
August 30th.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's also going to be something we're looking forward to.
Oh, that's a wonderful opportunity. It's put on by the Kiwanis Club, and they don't charge, and they get all of these wonderful speakers.
That's the best part of it.
I
They
know
don't
it.
charge. So even people like me can afford it.
And we would have had a table, except that all of the speakers got them, and since there's not enough room at the town hall, the Exeter Town Hall,
Yeah,
we were squeezed out.
We were a little bit late on that one. What are you going to do? You know?
Well, we can attend anyway, and we can do an awful lot of handshaking.
We can do that. We can shake hands. We can pass out cards. We can network for some
network.
more new and exciting guests for the show.
Yes, that's going to be and we might even learn something. You never know.
Hey, anything's possible. Speaking of learning something, you told me earlier something about a joke you had that you wanted to tell.
I do. This comes from a book. This is a young woman. She wrote a book called Strange New Hampshire, and it's on the order of legends, lore, people, creatures, different reports of unusual things that have happened in New Hampshire. But she also has a sense of humor. So it's entitled Strange New Hampshire, and the author is Renee Mallett. New Englanders in general are thought to have a kind of odd sense of humor, and as part of the New England states, New Hampshire is no different. A word of warning, though. Many of our jokes poke gentle fun at our neighbors. So this is the joke. 4 men are driving in a car together. There's one from Maine, one from Vermont, one from Massachusetts, and one from New Hampshire. All of a sudden, the man from Maine rolls down his window and starts throwing bags of potatoes out of the car, saying, "We have so many potatoes. I'm just sick and tired of seeing these things." A little bit further up the road, the man from Vermont starts throwing jugs of maple syrup out the car window, saying, "We have so much maple syrup in Vermont, we've just got to get rid of some of it." Inspired, the man from New Hampshire opens up the door and rolls the man from New Hampshire out of the car.
I really hate to tell you, but you screwed that one up.
I didn't screw it up, that's it.
No, you said the man from New Hampshire rolled the man from New Hampshire out the door.
Oh, the man from Massachusetts out the door. Oh, no, is that what I said?
You did.
Well, it's well known that people from Massachusetts are not really good drivers, and we don't need them up here. That was the point of the joke. Renee, forgive me.
It was a good joke, You just
I screwed it up.
You just kind of, Hey, it's one of those nights.
I don't read very well.
Did you expect anything to actually go right tonight?
Par for the course.
No, just that's the way it goes sometimes. But we want to kind of change gears here a little bit. I don't know if we have mentioned this on the show before, but Lynn is writing a book, and some of the it's a book about some of all of her personal experiences and
there's a variety,
really all sorts of paranormal type happenings, and it's like a collection of short. Well, we'll call them short stories, but
from the vaults of Lynn's life.
From the vaults of Lynn's life. Ooh, wow, I like that. Is that going to be the subtitle?
Something along those lines. I haven't decided. The title's gone through a couple of changes.
Yeah. What is the title now?
Not sure.
Oh, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
That's an odd name for a book, but I'll go with it. Okay. So a couple of the stories in there are ghost stories.
Yeah.
And you have had some ghost experiences in your own life. Well, actually, we both have, but hers are the more interesting ones. Those are the ones that got into the book. Mine didn't.
I've had a lot of different paranormal experiences, but 2 of them I think I can call ghost stories. Would you like to hear 1 or 2?
I would love to hear 1 or 2 or even 3 if you want.
Well, certainly it won't be a big surprise once you read the book, but I'll just change a few words. I was living in Portsmouth about 20 years ago, and I bought a little house in Atlantic Heights, and all of them were built around just after the World War I. So it was an old little house, and I had asked the woman that I bought it from if it was haunted, and she said she'd never felt anything there, and I still didn't quite believe her, so I asked her again at closing, "Is it haunted?" And she said, "No, I didn't feel anything."
New Hampshire doesn't have a disclosure on that, huh?
I don't think they have a law on the disclosure. I think Vermont does. But
yes, I know some states do.
Yeah. So I bought it anyway, and I really, really liked the place, and I started fixing it up immediately. And after about 1.5 years, I worked on the outside of the house first. And after about 1.5 years, I started making some changes inside. And that's when some peculiar things started happening. But one weekend in particular, in October, starting on Friday, October 13th, I'm sitting watching...
Friday, October 13th.
Yes, it was Friday, October 13th. I'm sitting watching TV in the evening. I'd just gotten home from work. And there was a stool that was in the living room. And as I'm watching TV, the darn thing tips and moves. And I just froze, and I thought, I didn't see that. I'm going to keep watching TV and pretend I didn't see that.
I see nothing.
I see nothing.
Exactly, what do you mean moves?
It tipped, and it moved. It, lurched forward.
So it moved across the floor is what you're saying?
Yeah, it did.
Okay.
Not very far.
Yeah.
So I decided, okay, I'm going to pretend nothing happened. When a commercial comes on, I'm going to investigate the carpet to see if there's an indentation where the leg of the stool would have pushed the carpet in. So I got up when the commercial came on, and there was an indentation in the carpet that the stool had moved an inch. So that was kind of hard to deny, but I ignored it. So it was Friday evening, and I decided I'd do a couple of loads of wash. So I went down and put the laundry in, and the darn machine wouldn't work. And I just couldn't. It worked before, worked the last time I did a load of wash. So I decided I would deal with it on Saturday morning. So on Saturday morning, I went downstairs, and I realized on both the washer and the dryer, all the knobs had been changed to settings I never used. That disturbed me, because I always kept them on the same settings. So
now you're starting to think, well, wait a minute, something is going on.
Something is going on. One of the precursor events was the strings on the blinds in the living room. They had all kinds of knots in them. Now, sure, when you open and close blinds, sometimes they get tangled and you get knots. But the point was, I didn't open and close the blinds with the strings. I just used the little rod and twisted it. I never used the strings. So there should have been no knots in there. But I let that go. It just wasn't assigned to me.
This was before the other.
It was before the other events. So that Saturday morning, when I saw that the knobs had been changed on the machines, I went outside and I marched myself over to one of my neighbors who had been in the neighborhood for 30 years. And I said to her, who lived in my house before I was there? You've been here for a while. Can you give me the history? So she goes on to say that there was a family of 4 who lived there, 2 children and mother and father. 3 of them passed away during their tenancy. The father died in my bedroom. The mother died in the hospital. And the young son hung himself. And what he had done is he hung himself down in the basement, and I believe he got up on a chair or a stool and kicked the stool. So that's why I think the stool moved.
Yeah, and it was in the basement,
sad.
which is where
the activity was.
Where the washing machine was.
Yep.
What was the stool? The stool wasn't in the basement that moved, right?
No, it wasn't. It just happened to be Friday the 13th.
But it was a stool.
And it was just a stool. So obviously in making changes and repairs to the house, I had disturbed something. And that's when things started.
Yes, you did. That's what happens when you make changes to a house. It seems that's one thing that brings on
it disrupts the environment.
A lot of paranormal experiences in many places when people start to rebuild something, update the house, whatever. It does.
They don't like the change.
Paranormal activity.
Mm-hmm.
And we are going to take a really quick 20-second break here to pay a couple bills.
Programming on Portsmouth Community Radio is brought to you by our members and by Davies Tire, providing professional auto repair and a full line of Nokian tires, with 2 locations to serve you, Islington Street and Banfield Road in Portsmouth. Discounts available online at daviestire.com. Davies Tire keeps you rolling right.
Okay, and we are back. And we were just discussing some of Lynn's paranormal experiences that she has had throughout her life. And I mean, pretty much it's been a lifetime of paranormal activity with you.
Yeah, various precognitive dreams and warnings and visions sometimes.
Yeah, you've had a lot of things going on. And I wanted to mention that when you were talking about the last story there with the blinds, the strings on the blinds that were tangled up, you remember we ran into somebody just recently.
That's true.
She had pictures, actually, didn't she? The same thing had happened.
The same thing had happened to her.
Yep, the strings on the blinds were tied in knots all by themselves.
It's almost as if it's child's play, that a child was doing it.
Yeah.
And you can say, oh, sure, you're probably misinterpreting that, but that with all of the other evidence just kind of pointed in one direction that there's something going on.
Oh, yeah, that by itself. Any one thing by itself you still
Yep.
have that question.
You can
But-
reason
but-
it away.
Yeah, if you try hard enough.
Yeah.
But if you put it all together, then you got something. Yeah, I wanted to. We'll get back to this in just a minute, but I wanted to mention a really, kind of an amusing story about reasoning things away or just ignoring.
Sure.
Myself, Lynn hasn't been, but I've done a number of investigations out at a place called the Shanley Hotel in Napanoch, New York. And actually, the owner, Shal Nicosia, is a very good friend, and he was our guest on our very first show. And he is going to come back and be our guest once again on our
anniversary show.
1 year anniversary.
Yeah.
October 2nd, I believe. But the story I wanted to tell was we were out there one night investigating, and it was getting late, and my brother, hi Jim, I'm going to tell you a story. He decided he was tired, which he usually is, so he went to bed. And he
just laid down somewhere, right?
No, he was in his room. He was in Marguerite's room, which is one of the most haunted rooms in the hotel. And he was just lying there, trying to go to sleep, and suddenly he heard things moving around on his dresser in the room. So he had the perfect, way to take care of this. He just pulled the covers up over his head.
Grown man.
said, no, this isn't really happening, and just ignored the whole thing. So anyway.
That's the end of your story?
That's it. That's my story, and I'm going to stick to it.
Well, then why don't you tell what happened when you looked in the mirror?
Well, it's... I can tell that story.
But that was fascinating.
It is. It's a fascinating story, but it's a hard story to just tell over the radio, without actually being there.
I know, but you weren't the only.
But there is in this same room, which is called Marguerite's room, and the story behind the room was there was a young girl who was she was raped and beaten and murdered by the butcher's son.
How old was she?
Oh, you had to ask me that.
Young teenager, wasn't she?
She was a young girl, yeah. And so actually, the funny part is it's the butcher's son that actually haunts the room. But they have on the dresser, which I just mentioned, where things were moving around, there's a mirror, and the mirror was donated to the hotel by another haunted hotel, and it brought something with it. And what they do, they do this experiment, and all the lights in the room are out except for like a little, it's like a candle, but you can't actually light a candle in the hotel, so it's like a little red glow. They set it on the bureau just under the mirror, and if you stare into the mirror from the right position, you can actually see a lot of times. In my case, what I saw was my face just kind of blanked out, and I could see my hair getting shorter. But now the strange part about the whole thing was there was 5 other people in the room. They were all watching from an angle. And what they saw in the mirror, all 5 of them saw this.
You didn't, but they did.
I didn't actually see this, but all 5 of the other witnesses saw this. They saw at the time I had very long hair. And anyways, my hair was getting shorter. And then my face, it turned into the face of a young girl. And they actually saw in the mirror. Now, I was just standing there, just looking straight ahead, focused on the mirror, not moving a muscle. And the face in the mirror of the young girl, the mouth started moving.
Now that you never told me.
I never told you that part?
No.
Oh, that's the best part. It's, the mouth in the mirror, and it wasn't me because I just had my mouth closed. I wasn't moving a muscle.
Was anybody reading lips?
No.
Well, did they get an idea of what she said?
No, we have no idea what she said. But, I all I can assume is the spirit was communicating through me, or trying to communicate through me. Now, the end of this story, the best part really, is that the hotel has 2 books downstairs in the great room. They're each about 2 inches thick, of old newspaper clippings of things that have happened in the hotel, and all the there's been many murders and suicides, and a lot of things have happened there. And so, anyways, they went down and looked up in the book, and they found the picture of the young girl who was murdered in that room, and all 5 of them immediately said, "That's the girl. She is the one that we just saw in the mirror."
Boy, that's hard to deny.
Yeah, it is kind of hard to deny. I mean, I wish I had actually seen the face myself, but with 5 witnesses.
Well, you could say collusion, but I don't think that was the case. They didn't know each other, did they?
No, they didn't. I mean, 2 of them I know well and I trust, and I know they wouldn't lie. The other ones, none of us had ever seen before.
That's an incredible experience.
They were just guests at the hotel that night, and so it was quite an experience. Like I say, to tell it on just over the radio without actually being there, or at least having pictures or something, it's kind of a hard story to understand. But
you can't. It's very hard to believe until you experience it yourself, and then you start wondering, what the heck was that? There's a whole lot more to this life. To life in general than is dreamt of in your philosophy. Goes something like that, doesn't it?
And I do want to mention that, I said that the hotel has had a lot of murders and suicides, but I want to make it clear also that there is nothing in
there seems to be no evil spirits
there.
There
There is nothing in the hotel that is dangerous or evil, which is kind of odd, really, with the things that have happened. But Sal refers to all the ghosts there as the good old boys and girls. He says they just like to play with you.
Well, one guy was a hitman.
Yeah, there was Joe the hitman.
That doesn't hit me as being benevolent.
Joe, wasn't his real name, but he was a hitman for the mob.
Yeah.
And
he's not negative, huh?
Well, he's not. I mean, he was negative, obviously, but I mean, now there are no negative spirits. I mean, nothing. Even Joe is not going to hurt you these days. He doesn't like it if you sit in his chair. He may try and push you out, but that's about it.
All right, that's not too bad.
No, that's nothing serious.
At least he doesn't hold a gun to your head.
No, I tried to get him one night. I took a gun with me, not a real gun, but I actually took it up to Joe's room, and I told him, look, okay, if you're such a tough guy, go ahead and shoot me. But he wouldn't do it.
No kidding.
No, I couldn't get him to do it.
But the Shanley Hotel is really fascinating because I don't know if there's a total of 30 rooms, but there are 30 rooms that have been redone in the style of the house. And all 30 of those rooms have some sort of spirit or energy in them. Yeah,
every room in the hotel has a spirit. There's a couple of young children. There's Rosie, a little girl that was unfortunately fell down the well and drowned, and there was little Jonathan who was hit by a car right out in front of the hotel.
That's a shame.
And there's some sad stories, but
it's a fascinating place to visit.
It is. I love going there, and I'm having Shanley withdrawals right now. I gotta go.
Feeling a trip coming on, huh?
Yeah, feeling a trip coming on, definitely.
Well,
but you know what?
I know
even without a guest, the hour was over.
I know they weren't all lighthouse stories, but there was a couple in there. But I hope it was fascinating listening for impromptu anyway.
Oh,
for being impromptu.
I was fascinated. Because it doesn't take much to fascinate me. Just give me a little ball and a stick, and I'm good.
Well, thank you for sharing, Willie. That was interesting.
All right. Well,
I hope to get to the Shanley.
I hope you do. I hope you do. But in the meantime, it is the end of the hour, and that is Spirit Radio, the Paranormal Experience for this week. And we will be back again next week.
Good evening, and thanks for listening.